The earliest reference to yin and yang is most likely in the Book of Changes, I Ching, dating back to about 700 BC. In this book, yin and yang are represented by broken and unbroken lines, as shown here. The combinations of the broken and unbroken lines in pairs forms 4 sets of diagrams representing utmost yin, utmost yang, and 2 intermediate stages. The addition of another line to these 4 diagrams forms, with varying combinations, the 8 trigrams of the I Ching. The emperor faced south towards subjects who faced north. The emperor thus opened himself to receive the influence of heaven, yang, and south. South is therefore like heaven, at the top. North is therefore like earth, at the bottom. By facing south, the emperor identifies his left with east and his right with west. In the simple questions, it says east represents yang, west represents yin. In the west and north, there is a deficiency of heaven, hence the left ear and eyes hear and see better than the right. In the east and south, there is a deficiency of earth, hence the right hand and foot are stronger than the left. The 4 aspects of the relationship of yin and yang are represented well in the Tai Chi symbol, where you can clearly see their mutual intertransformation, their mutual interdependence, their mutual opposition, and their mutual consumption. In the Book of Change, or the I Ching, it states that yin and yang reflect all the forms and characteristics existing in the universe, and that yin and yang are the laws of heaven and earth, the great framework of everything, the parents of change, the root and beginning of life and death. Yin and yang are opposite in nature. They are at the same time interdependent. They simultaneously oppose and complement each other and exist within all natural phenomena. The opposition of yin and yang is reflected in their ability to struggle with and therefore control and balance each other. For instance, warmth and heat yang may dispel cold, while coolness and cold yin may lower a high temperature. The yin and yang, or aspect, within any phenomenon will restrict the other through opposition. Under normal conditions in the human body, a relative physiological balance is maintained through the mutual opposition of yin and yang. However, if for any reason the mutual opposition results in an excess or deficiency of yin and yang, the relative physiological balance of the body will be disturbed and disease may arise. When yin predominates, yang will be diseased. When yang predominates, yin will be diseased. Although yin and yang oppose each other, they at the same time are mutually dependent upon one another. Neither can exist in isolation. Without yin, there can be no yang. Without yang, there can be no yin. Without upward movement, there can be no downward movement. Yin remains inside to act as a guard for yang, and yang stays outside to act as a servant for yin. Interdependence. Without yang, there would be no production of yin. Without yin, there will be no production of yang. The 2 aspects of yin and yang within any phenomenon are not fixed, but in a state of continuous mutual consumption and expansion. For instance, the various functional activities of yang of the body will necessarily consume a certain amount of nutrient substance yin. This is the process of consumption of yin leading to a gaining of yang. On the other hand, the production of various nutrient substances in the body, yin, will necessarily consume a certain amount of energy, yang. This is the process of consumption of yang leading to a gaining of yin. Under normal conditions, the interconsumption or mutual consumption of yin and yang is in a state of relative balance. If this relationship goes beyond normal physiological limits, however, the relative balance of yin and yang will not be maintained, resulting in excess or deficiency of either yin or yang and the occurrence of disease. The 2 aspects of yin and yang within any phenomenon are not absolutely static. In certain circumstances, either of the 2 may transform into its opposite. Yang may transform into yin and yin into yang. If the interconsumptive supporting relationship or the mutual consumption is in a process of quantitative change, then the intertransformation of yin and yang is in a process of qualitative change. Extreme yin will necessarily produce yang, and extreme yang will necessarily produce yin. Severe cold will give birth to heat, and severe heat will give birth to cold. The original meaning of yang was sunny side of a slope. The term implies brightness and is part of one common Chinese expression for the sun. Yang is associated with qualities such as heat, stimulation, movement, activity, excitement, vigor, light, exterior, upwardness, outwardness, and increase. It is arousal, beginning, and dynamic potential. The character for yin originally meant the shady side of a slope and is associated with such qualities as cold, rest, responsiveness, passivity, darkness, interior, downward, inward, decrease, satiation, tranquility, and it is the end, completion, and realized fruition. Any yin or yang aspect can be further divided into yin and yang. This means that within each yin and yang category, another yin and yang category can be distinguished. So each aspect of yin and yang can be further divided into an aspect of yin and yang. For example, temperature can be divided into cold yin and hot yang, but cold can be further divided into icy cold yin and moderately cold yang. So it's all in relativity or relation to each other that it's further being divided. For example, in the body, the front of the body, the trunk, is yin compared with the back, but the front can be further divided so that the abdomen is yin in relation to the chest, which is yang, above it. Within a yin illness characterized by coldness, there may be aspects of yang such as sharp, forced contractions. Within a yang illness of heat, there may be hyperactivity, but also weakness and loss of weight, which are both yin qualities. So there is always yin within yang and yang within yin, always. Yin and yang are also infinitely divisible, and they are in a constant state of change, which means that at any one time there exist relative degrees of both yin and yang. It's stated in the 6th chapter of the Plain Questions. Yin and yang could amount to 10 in number. They could be extended to 100, 1,000, 10,000, or infinity. But although infinitely divisible, yin and yang are based upon only one important principle. According to circumstances, yin and yang can be categorized into 3 subdivisions. The 66th chapter of the book Plain Questions says the qi of yin and yang may be lesser or greater. That is why there are 3 yin and 3 yang. And I will go into greater detail about the 3 yin and 3 yang meridians and how each organ relates to yin and yang. There's a yin and yang organ in the body. And there's just every aspect of Chinese medicine comes back to yin and yang. Every pattern, every pathology has an aspect of yin and yang that needs to be addressed. And it is the basic principle of Chinese medicine. So it is super important to have a great understanding of it before delving into any further studies. The character for yin originally meant the shady side of a slope and is associated with qualities like cold, rest, responsiveness, passivity, darkness, interior, downward, inward, decrease, satiation, and tranquility. It is the end, completion, and realized fruition. And the original meaning of yang, of the yang character, was a sunny side of a slope, the term implying brightness, and it is a common Chinese expression for the sun. Yang is associated with such qualities as heat, stimulation, movement, activity, excitement, vigor, light, exterior, upward, outward, and increase. It is arousal, beginning, and dynamic potential. Any yin or yang aspect can be further divided into yin and yang. This means that within each yin and yang category, another yin and yang category can be distinguished. And it's the extension and logic that divides all phenomena into yin and yang aspects, which allows for further division within aspects. For example, temperature can be divided into cold, yin, and hot, yang, but cold can be divided into further icy cold, yin, and moderately cold, yang. In the body, the front or the trunk is yin and compared to the back, which is yang. But if you compare the front being divided into 2 parts, the chest and the abdomen is yin in comparison to the chest, above it being yang. So yin and yang are all relative, and there's yin and yang within everything and further yin and yang within everything. I will go in detail in my video on Zong Fu theory in respect to yin and yang and how all the organs are related and their patterns and pathologies to yin and yang. So that will be a really, really good video helping to understand how yin and yang manifest within the body. We know that yin and yang mutually create each other, transform into each other, control each other, and can be further divided into each other. And we also know that all things have two facets, a yin and yang aspect. Lao Tzu, the reputed founder of Taoism, declares in the Tao Te Ching, the classic of Tao and its virtue, being and non-being produce each other, difficult and easy complete each other, long and short contrast each other, high and low distinguish each other, sound and voice harmonize each other, front and back follow each other. He also says, he who stands on tiptoe is not steady. He who strides forward does not go. He who shows himself is not luminous. He who justifies himself is not prominent. He who boasts of himself is not given credit. He who brags does not endure for long. And this just shows how, even in a philosophical sense in life, yin and yang must always be in balance. And the objective, the whole goal of the doctor of Chinese medicine is to balance yin and yang.